there, welcome back for a new episode of Way Out Wednesday. My name is Dr. Ashley Southard. I'm the site director and clinical therapist at a New Beginning Outpatient Treatment Center and also the co-founder and program director of the Healthy Way Out Emotional and Binge Eating Weight Loss Program, both located in Scottsdale, Arizona. So this month we are talking about the parallels between what you do with food and what you do with your feelings, because there's actually a lot of similarities in those two areas. And so today I want to explore one more facet of these parallels that is so common for so many people struggling with emotional and binge eating, and hopefully this will resonate with you too. And that is this fear of losing control. Okay, so how does this show up in your relationship with food? Well, let's look at that. So with food, a lot of times when people have a history of overeating, what they learn about themselves is that they can be out of control when it comes to eating, okay? And that can be really overwhelming and really scary. And the natural knee-jerk reaction to seeing that in yourself is you want to get in control. And how do you try to get in control of your eating? You diet, right? That's exactly what a diet is. It is a rigid, structured way of trying to gain control over your eating. Now, the other thing that I've found with people struggling with emotional and binge eating is this fear that if they don't rigidly control their eating vis-a-vis a diet, that they are just going to never stop, that they will be so out of control indefinitely, okay? And so the dieting becomes this thing that you use to try to assert control over your eating, to try to feel like you've got this under wraps. But here's the irony in that. Dieting is the very thing that sets you up to binge. And dieting is your method for gaining control, but it is the very thing that sets you up to binge and lose control. How paradoxical is that? Okay? Now, let's apply this very same process to what you do with your feelings, because remember, they're so similar, okay? This fear of being out of control or losing control with your emotions. Now, nearly all emotional and binge eaters that I work with have a history with their emotions that teaches them that they can become out of control with their emotions, that they can have big emotions that can feel overwhelming and messy and out of control. So this could be lots of tears or an anger outburst or a quote unquote meltdown, okay? But they learn within themselves that they can feel overwhelmed and out of control by their feelings. And what do they want to do? Well, just like being out of control with food, they want to be in control of their emotions, all right? They want to be in charge of that process. They don't want it to feel uncomfortable, and they don't want those overwhelming things to happen. The other thing that I hear, just like with food, is that they are afraid that if they really allow themselves to step into their emotions, that they're just going to get sucked up into this emotional vortex and they're never going to come out, that they're just going to be crying all the time and angry all the time and just completely overwhelmed and overrun by their emotions, okay? So what do they do to try to gain control? Well, typically what I hear then is that they try to shut down their emotions. They try to minimize them, disconnect from them, cover them up and say, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. I have it all together. Okay, so this is very akin to dieting, right? You're trying to restrict and control and really kind of minimize any cravings, any urges, any desires, right? But here's the thing. The more that you shut down your emotions and try to control them, the more you are set up for some big emotional explosion or outburst, right? So the very thing you're doing to try to remain in control, shutting down your emotions, becomes the very thing that then causes you to lose control, which is having those big emotions that you're so scared of. Now, how does this relate to food? Well, when you have those big emotions, you may find yourself binging as a way to cope with that intensity. And you can also use binging as a way to try to minimize them in the first place. So food and feelings get very interwoven in this process and in this fear of losing control. Okay, so both with food and feelings, you learn, whoa, I can feel out of control. I can feel overwhelmed. I don't like that. I want to feel in control. And you're afraid that if you lean into food and if you lean into feelings, it'll never stop and it'll overtake you. So what do? You try to control it. You try to restrict your food and restrict your feelings, which then ironically becomes the very thing that sets you up to binge and sets you up to have those emotional outbursts, the two things that you fear the most. So how can we start to get away from being so afraid of trusting our body's natural mechanisms to help us stay in control? How can you start to trust that your body will maintain nutritional control if you just get out of the way and let it do its thing? How can you trust that your body will maintain emotional control if you get out of the way and let it do its thing? So we have to work on not fearing your body and trusting that it knows how to regulate itself. And if you haven't already, I want you to check out last week's video, where I talk about the metaphor of a thermostat. Your body has a nutritional thermostat and it has an emotional thermostat built into it, where it's already trying to maintain nutritional balance and emotional balance. And if you can trust that process and really kind of get out of your own way and stop trying to artificially control it and being scared of it, you'll find that you're not going to be out of control. The thing that you fear the most is actually not going to happen. So what are some other things that you can do to support yourself in not being so afraid of losing this control? Well, I think the first thing that we want to do, and this is coming from my orientation as a therapist, is we want to really explore, where did you learn that you can't trust your body's natural tendencies and natural abilities to stay regulated and in control? Somewhere along the way, you must have learned that your body can't be relied upon, okay? Because everybody is born as a baby with that natural tendency to trust themselves. But then somewhere along the way that changes. So for some people that can change because they get messages from their environments as a younger person that says, I know better than you. I know what you're feeling. I know what you want to eat. And so the child thinks, all right, well, I must not know what I want to eat, or I must not know what I'm feeling because this person's telling me they know. So sometimes interactions and messages like that can really pull us away from knowing exactly what's going on inside of ourselves and trusting that we know what's going on inside of ourselves, okay? Other things that can happen is we could be listening to our body and then maybe something bad or negative happens, and that can then make us gun shy to wanting to trust our body. Okay, so there's lots of ways that we can get away from trusting our bodies, but I want you to explore that. When did that happen in your life? How did that happen? What were the contributing factors? And then this may be where you want to gift yourself the opportunity of doing some individual therapy, not just to explore that, but to resolve it. Because believe it or not, you can go back in time and you can resolve those spots in your personal story so that they no longer haunt you emotionally. Okay, so think about where along the way you learned to not trust yourself, and consider working with a therapist to resolve those so that you can come back to yourself and you can have that internal authentic trust, and you will see that manifest in your relationship with food and in your relationship with your feelings. Now, another thing that you can do that I think can be really, really powerful is spend some time with babies and young children. So babies are some of our best teachers because they haven't learned how to shut things down yet. They haven't learned their defense mechanisms. They haven't learned that they shouldn't be who they naturally are. So they're just showing up in all their natural glory, all right? When they're hungry, they cry and let you know, and when they're full, they push that bottle or that nipple out of their mouth. And when they're feeling sad, they will cry and let you know, and when they're feeling happy, they will giggle and let you know. Babies just don't censor themselves. So they're actually a really great model for how we are all wired to naturally be. And our goal as adults is to really get back to that natural wiring as much as we possibly can. So spend time around babies and young children and notice, what are they naturally doing? How are they naturally eating? And see if you can bring some of those aspects into your own relationship with food and your own relationship with feelings. And lastly, to piggyback on that, is to really learn about child development and what do children naturally need, both nutritionally and emotionally. A lot of us as adults have developed very distorted ideas of how we should eat and how we should feel and how we should relate to ourselves and to others. But a lot of these messages are just downright incorrect. And so it sets us on a path to feel like we're doing something wrong, to feel like we need to control ourselves better. And as you know, then that is a total setup for the binging and the emotional outbursts later on. So educate yourself about what really is natural for us as human beings. How do we naturally want to eat? How do we naturally want to feel? There are some wonderful authors out there, too many to name here, but I will give you two that I think can be really helpful and a great starting point. One is Ellen Satter. She does a lot of wonderful writing about how to feed a baby and a child and how to really help them craft a very healthy, loving, balanced relationship with food. So even though these may be books about what to do with a child in your life, they can be very, very helpful for us as adults. So don't think that you have to be a parent or a caregiver to benefit from her book. So check her out. I think you'll really find her books very, very helpful. The other author that I would recommend is John Bradshaw, and he's done a lot of work on really helping adults get away from using addictions to cope with their emotions and helping them get back to their real selves and learning about their emotions and their needs and starting to meet those needs in healthy ways. So his literature is very much in the adult children of alcoholics work, but I think this applies to everyone, and I think this can certainly apply to the process of emotional and binge eating. So check out John Bradshaw as well, and I think you'll learn a lot about what babies and children are naturally needing from an emotional development perspective, and you can start to learn how to meet those needs in healthier ways without the use of food, okay? So if you can start to trust your body's natural tendencies to regulate and control your food and your feelings, in addition to really studying babies and studying child development, I think you're going to find that you can feel a lot more confident and in control when it comes to food and feelings, okay? All right, so I hope that helps, and that wraps up this month's series of the parallels between food and feelings. I'll be back here next week for a new topic. I'm super excited. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.